Hey folks, welcome back to another Monday Stack Live. And today we're talking about whether AI is making us, obsolete. And I do have to apologize for the creepy picture that I've managed to make with the new image model from Gemini, the Gemini 2.5 Flash image gen, which has now got the stunning capability of actually changing a picture and keeping the picture the same, the image the same, so you can actually edit pictures. Now, I did do have a few goes of this, so it couldn't do certain things. And by the way, if you're listening to this on the podcast, then click the link in the show notes, and the audio podcast, click the link in the show notes and watch the video so you can see the picture. So this is the original picture. I got to this after a couple of tries, and then I thought I wanted to make it even more ridiculous and look like a complete fop. And I got it to this. Didn't do exactly what I wanted it to do. I wanted it to have like those little Cupid lips, the little tiny ones, and it couldn't do that. And also it kept on getting rid of my teeth. And then I tried to make my teeth rotting and a bit like yellow, and it just made them look completely just bright yellow. So I decided to go for this. So anyway, I apologize that you've had to sit here watching that, looking at that terrible photo for a while. But obviously the idea of this photo, me looking like an 18th century, 17th, 18th century, I'm not exactly sure, fop, was meant to visually represent the fact that in many ways what I've been doing over the last 15 years, which is coaching, could well be becoming obsolete. It's not necessarily that it will become obsolete. And in fact, my guess, although I don't know, is that just like vinyl records are still used, in fact, there's been a renaissance, human coaches will still be a thing. That's my guess. Another example, even though chess can now be won by AI, it's never been more popular. So there's another example. So my guess, even though I don't know, is that human coaches will still be around. And it's not just about coaching. It's not just about chess. It's also all kinds of different things. If you assume that an AI isn't going to be able to do what you do, then you may well be on shaky ground. And as you'll notice, I'm not saying you are on shaky ground, and I'm saying I don't know a lot. And that's because I am just in general anti-certainty, even though it feels nice. And there's a reason for that. It's because when we're moving into an uncertain future of any kind, so will insert doubtful state happen, if we're in that kind of situation, will this piece of music that I've finished, will people like it? Or will I get this job? Or will IA? What's IA? AI. Will AI take over what I'm doing now? Will it make me obsolete? What the human mind naturally does is it wants to create certainty. It wants to find certainty. It will even create false certainty in order to feel better about it. And I think you'll probably agree that no matter what you think about AI or how you feel about AI, is that we have never been in a more uncertain, going into a more uncertain future. And so in this situation, you've got a perfect storm for the human mind for it to create certainty. And I stole this from the 5 stages of grief, and I've renamed it as the 5 responses to doubt. And as I just go through the 5 responses to doubt, which are all different ways of creating certainty, false certainty, I just want you to sort of think about who you might know, or even when you've gone through these, had these responses too, because I've had these responses. So number 1 is denial. And there are 2 forms of this. Oh no, it's definitely not going to happen. It's just a load of nonsense. I mean, look, it can't do this. It can't do that. It couldn't do those little Cupid lips on you, Mike. So therefore it's rubbish. That's one certainty. I'm creating certainty. It's not going to happen. The other is, oh, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be a land of milk and honey. We're going to be looked after. We're never going to have to work ever again in our lives. That's another form of denial. So you may well know some people who have that response. You may well have had that response. Then there is anger. It's another form of certainty, because anger, it's something to hold on to. It's a strong emotion. How dare they? Who is to blame? And to be fair, there's a lot to be angry about. There is a lot to be angry about. I'm not denying that. But it doesn't change that, like, it's not exactly a nice feeling, but it is a relief from the feeling of certainty, because it creates a strong certainty. I am feeling angry. Those people are to blame. I am certain of this. They are wrong. I am right. I've justified anger. You may well be right. The anger may well be justified, but that certainty is problematic. I'll tell you why in a minute. So then the third response to doubt is bargaining. Oh, well, okay, so this is obviously happening, but I don't think it'll be so bad, will it? No, it'll be fine. Things will go on just as normal. It's kind of bargaining with this uncertain future. Again, you can almost, as I was saying it, I could almost feel the relief. I've created, well, I just don't think it's going to be that bad. It's not going to change that much, right? And then the fourth is despair. Possibly one of the worst. I'm doomed. We're all doomed. We may well be doomed. I don't know. But, that again is another form of certainty. I am doomed. We're all doomed. It's all over. There's going to be a vengeful God of an AI who's going to come and take us over. It creates certainty. Now, isn't it strange? It's kind of counterintuitive to think that believing in a vengeful AI that is going to destroy the world, Terminator style, is actually a way of making yourself feel better. But when you understand and look at how human being minds operate, what they do in uncertainty, actually believing for sure, which lots of people do, that there is going to be an AI that will destroy us all, feels better now because it's certain than the uncertainty of saying, well, I don't know. So again, despair is a response to uncertainty. And even acceptance. Okay, well, what's the point? I'm going to quit. Now, to be fair, in the 5 stages of grief, I think acceptance is meant to be the positive end point. But at this point, because there is no certainty, there isn't really a point at which we're going to be certain, because by the time we're certain of the future, another future will be occurring in front of it. So in this case, acceptance, well, what's the point? I'm just going to quit, is, I think, but not a very useful response to this doubt. And I mean, the reason I can say this, and the reason I believe that this is true from my own experience, is that in the 90s, I had a very nice little cottage industry career of making tracks, pressing up vinyl records and selling them. That was basically my business. And I made loads of records and sold them. And, I wasn't a millionaire by any stretch of the imagination, but I made ends meet. When the internet came along, that was dismantled. Now, obviously, as I said, vinyl has had a more recent resurgence, but it took a long time for that to happen. And I don't know, I mean, I've not really spoken to anyone who does it, but I don't know if it's as profitable as it once was. And I went through all of these responses to this uncertainty of what will happen with the internet: denial, anger, bargaining, despair, and acceptance. And I've been through all of these responses to doubt with AI as well. But I saw what was happening within my mind, within my body, within my responses, and it reminded me of what I did in response to the internet destroying the previous music industry. And it led me nowhere good. So instead, when AI exploded, I mean, it's been developed for years and years and years, but when it kind of exploded with ChatGPT, I decided, well, eventually I decided to take, after I went through the different responses to it, I decided to take a different route. I decided to do something different. I decided to use the zero certainty mental model to work with doubt. And really where I learnt this, or where I developed it, or where I noticed it in a sense, is from coaching creative people, musicians, music producers in their creative process to make more and better music. Because the creative process is really a microcosm of many, many different things. But one of the things it is it's a microcosm of moving into an uncertain future. Because when you start something, no matter how great that idea is in the beginning, you don't know. You really don't know how good it's going to be. You know that thing, you've made something that's just started. Oh, it's the best thing I've ever made. No, it's not, because you haven't made it yet. It's just an idea. It could be the best thing you've ever made, but it might not be the best thing you've ever made because you might not finish it. So this is how I think about working with doubt. It's not even accepting it, because doubt, to accept it, is there's a certain certainty there. It's about living with it, using it almost, using it as a mentor, as a coach, as a force to move you forward. So we start with step one. Well, will this thing happen? Is AI going to make me and my job obsolete? The second step, which is absolutely essential, is to say the three words, the three most powerful words in the English language: I don't know. I don't know. I can guess, that's okay, but I'm not going to say I know, because I don't. Nobody does. But we're not going to stop there, because if we stopped there, it would be pointless. It would be useless. I don't know, and now I'm going to go and watch Netflix. That's not good. So instead, you've got to take the next step, which is, all right, I don't know, but let's imagine that it does happen. So let's imagine that AI does make what I am doing now obsolete. It removes the need for human beings to actually do it, for me to do it. All of these years, me spending time doing this thing that I'm doing, and I no longer have to do it, right? Let's just imagine that. Now, that's quite uncomfortable imagining, but let's just do that. Because then what we can do is, well, let's pretend that this has happened. How do I do the opposite of that doubtful state? How do I get into a situation which is the opposite of it? So let me give you some examples. So will AI make coaching obsolete? Will it make coding obsolete? Will it make product managing obsolete? Will it make making music obsolete, or marketing, or anything? Will it make those obsolete? If it does, then in that situation, how do I ensure I become more valuable? in that imagined future. Now, I'm not saying it will make them obsolete. I'm doing a little thought experiment. Another example, and this is a very different example, but I think it's useful because it's different. When you're using an LLM, when you're using an AI, is what this AI telling me true or not? I don't know. It might be. Well, if it is incorrect, if what the AI is telling me is incorrect, how do I ensure that I always correct the errors? Right now, you'll notice in this model, there's no point at which I am saying that the doubtful state will happen. I'm saying I don't know, but I'm pretending it will happen so that I can think through what to do in case it does. So I don't need to create certainty in order to know what to do next. Okay? So once you've done that, so how do you ensure you become more valuable? Let's go back to the AI making us obsolete. How do you ensure that you become more valuable? How do you answer this question? How do I ensure I become more valuable? So I'm going to just take you through my process in how I've moved into creating stuff in the Monday stack. Okay, so the kind of tools and things I'm doing within the Monday stack can have all sorts of uses. This is one of the difficult things about AI. It's the anything and everything technology. But one of the things that I would recommend that you do in order to work with AI is actually apply it to what you already know first. So I know coaching very well. I've been doing it for 15 years, I've tried to count it up recently, and I don't know, it's probably around 12 to 14,000 hours of face-to-face coaching. And that's not including the online coaching and typing and all that kind of stuff. So literally face-to-face coaching, individuals or groups. And so I know coaching pretty well, not the world's greatest at it, but I'm pretty good. I'm okay. So I decide, you start with what you know, because that just reduces the amount of things you have to think about and the amount of things you have to learn. Okay. So the first step to answering this question, how do I ensure that I become more valuable, not obsolete, is you have to imagine the positive future, right? So if I were to imagine that human coaching disappears, then I'm going to list out the benefits, because believe it or not, there are quite a lot of benefits. Not so much maybe for the coaches, but then again, maybe there would be. So coaching, one-to-one coaching, for example, and when I say coaching, by the way, I don't mean teaching, I don't mean consulting, and I don't mean counseling. Coaching is a separate thing. Just like a carrot is a vegetable and a potato is a vegetable, but a potato isn't a carrot, right? It's exactly the same thing. So coaching is very different to teaching, consulting, counseling, and all of those other ings. Yeah, coaching is its own thing. So when people say get coaching, often what they mean is teaching. I'm talking about coaching as a thing where you ask people questions. The coach asks the client questions in order to find out what they can already do. Okay. So benefits of coaching. Number one, it's much cheaper. Coaching is expensive because it's a one-to-one thing. That means that there's much more access to it in that situation if human coaching disappears. That means that more people of all different income levels can access it. It's a good thing, right? Which means that there is more happiness in the world, because actually having a coach and being coached makes you much more happy because it empowers you. It gives you power. It doesn't disempower you. It doesn't take away your power. It gives you much more power, gives you more agency. That will create more demand in this imagined future. And then from the perspective of me, the coach, that means, oh, hang on, there we go. That means, sorry, it's much more scalable. One of the challenges with being a coach is because it's best delivered face-to-face, one-to-one or in small groups, it's not scalable. Yeah, I have to be there doing it in order for the value to be delivered. You can get a certain amount via video, you can do a certain amount, but it's not quite the same thing. So, but if you are able to have AI coaches, in fact, there are a lot of positive benefits, and one of them is even for me. Now, obviously, I'm going through a case study here of coaching, but you can apply this same broad model to your situation. So step one, what would be the positives, not necessarily just for you, but the positives of this positive future, of this future, if what you were doing was replaced by AI. You have to take that step first because that opens the mind to opportunities. If you just start with the negatives, that closes the mind, it narrows it, and you can't see beyond the problems. Okay, so you start with, all right, so what would be the benefits to humankind, to you, to others, to people who you don't know? Okay. Then the next step, we don't ignore the problems. We're not, skipping around pretending that everything's going to be okay. So but instead, we think, all right, so what are the blockers to this uncertain future? So if you imagine that most humans have an AI coach, what are the current problems right now? So we're coming back into the present because problems are here now. Yeah, this imagined future hasn't happened yet. What are the problems in the way of this future happening? Now, there's an absolute bunch of them, but I'm just going to go through 3 for now. Otherwise, we'll be here till Christmas. So, believe it or not, one of the main problems to most humans having an AI coach is the way that AI behaves right now, which is this idea of a helpful assistant. Helpful meaning giving you loads of unsolicited advice, telling you what to do, forcing you into a situation which removes your agency, and forcing might be too strong, putting you in a situation which removes your agency, disempowers you, and stops you from actually thinking through what you need to think through. What the AI labs seem to believe is helpful is, to me, disempowering and unhelpful as a coach. It's actually delivering, it's like teaching you helplessness. Just tell me what to do, right? So that is a major blocker right now. How on earth is that going to change? Another blocker, which is much closer to home for me, is my AI skills. Like, how would I actually create a situation where any human, let alone most humans, have an AI coach? Because I guarantee you, while people are saying, oh yeah, no, I've got this life coach in ChatGPT, unless there's some serious prompting going on, there's some serious stuff going on, you do not have a coach. You have the opposite of a coach. You have this thing giving you loads of probably bad advice. Okay? So it might feel good. Oh, certainty. Oh, it's telling me this. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, but you don't have that. That's not what you have, right? So I actually, or somebody, some bright spark, might as well be me, has to create the situation where this AI can coach, yeah, can actually help you think through your problems, help you empower yourself, give you agency to move forward and hit your goals, set goals, get what you want out of life. And then the third is obviously user adoption. This helpful, this unsolicited advice thing on the internet. I mean, I'm talking here right now on YouTube. YouTube is the unsolicited advice machine. Do this, do that, do the other. Another video. Do the opposite of what that person said. Do the opposite of this what the person said. Right. So there's a disease of unsolicited advice out there. So this is a significant problem. The thing is, this, even though it is a problem right now, it's not a problem I have to solve right now, because unless I can solve these two, this is something I don't even need to worry about. Okay. As a result, I'm just going to focus on these two problems. So this at the moment, while it is a problem, it's just, I'm going to put it to one side, because also I'm very lucky that I do have people who value my coaching and who understand what I mean when I say coaching. So I actually have a group of people who are willing to or want more of that, and would actually be happy to get more of that, even if it wasn't delivered by this bald idiot here, right? So now we've got the problems, we have to think of some solutions. And as I said, because the user adoption thing isn't something I need to solve right now, in fact, it would be pointless solving it if I couldn't solve the other two. So I'm just going to put it to one side. This is the next step, find solutions. So in terms of the helpful assistant problem, one of the reasons that LLMs have this problem is the system instructions. Because people assume that helpful means giving you loads of advice in the system instructions, it's very strongly weighted to that. Now, there are ways around it, what I'm calling cognitive engineering or cognitive prompting, where you actually get it to do the opposite thing and you instruct it not to give advice. There are problems with that, however, in that because those system instructions are so persistent and so strong, if you have long conversations, it tends to forget. But there is, that is one solution. That's something that I've been working on. The other is the actual model training itself. So I'm not going to go into the technical details, mainly because I'm no expert, but essentially the models are trained and then they go through this process of reinforcement learning with human feedback, where essentially a human or humans give the thumbs up to certain responses and thumbs down to other responses, essentially. And as a result of that, they are trained to be helpful, not helpful, in other words. And that is another reason why these models are so unhelpful in that sense. Now, I'm not saying that no advice is necessarily a good thing. I'm saying unsolicited advice. I've lost count in the number of times. I ought to have it on a keyboard shortcut, which is do not offer me advice unless I ask for it. Right, do not ask, do you want this thing? No, I don't want a printable, thank you very much, ChatGPT. I don't need one. And anyway, it's crap. So please, no. So yeah, one of the reasons is the actual training itself. Now, this is much more difficult because it's sort of beneath the system instructions. It's kind of what the model is when it comes to you. There are ways around it, however. There's a thing called fine-tuning, where you can actually permanently change the behavior of a model by tuning it through a particular process. And then really the model, the problem underneath all of this is what I call the mistaken information retrieval paradigm. People believe that how it works is you got this information, and then let's say I'm teaching you. So I've got this information, let's call it a liquid, yeah? And I can pour it into your head when I'm teaching you. And that is how you will learn. And so you get this information in your head, and now you know the stuff. That is not how it ever works at any point. When you get taught, like right now, I'm speaking to you, I'm not injecting what I am thinking and what I understand into your mind and you're taking it on. What is going on is I am speaking words, you are listening to them, and then you are decoding them and trying to understand what I'm talking about. And you're doing that imperfectly, but it's an active process where you are actually using the information that's coming out of my mouth and you are creating new knowledge with it. Yeah, you're applying it to your past experience. You're trying to measure it against something else. You're trying to work out. So it's an active process. Information is static. And at no point do we actually retrieve information. We read the information, but the point at which we actually get something from it, it becomes knowledge creation. Now, the whole of the internet is based upon this idea of information retrieval. Look at Google. What's its mission? To organize the world's information, right? Great, that makes sense. But what they've done, because the people at Google actually invented the transformer, which is what's behind LLMs, is that they've taken that information retrieval paradigm and they've assumed that large language models are doing the same thing. Large language models do not retrieve information. They do not, I'm going to say it again, they do not retrieve information. Even when a tool goes and searches the internet, they take in that information and then they generate something new out of it. They can quote things, but they are not retrieving information. That's not what they're doing. I've even talked to an AI researcher about this, and when I said that initially, he was like, and then he went, yeah, no, I guess they're not. And then he was like, yeah, but you know, it's all semantics. I'm like, it's not just semantics. It is not just semantics. It's really important. Knowledge creation and what LLMs do is actually much closer to the reality of how you and I learn. So this whole paradigm needs to change. Now, this is a much bigger problem to solve. But basically, I'll tell you how I'm going to solve it in a minute, or how I'm thinking about solving it in a minute. Okay. So with the first problem, how could I develop AI skills or skills in order to solve this problem? Well, obviously, I could develop this cognitive engineering idea. How to actually counteract the system instructions so the AI does something different to what it's told to do by the labs. The first example of this is actually over on my Substack. I can't remember the name of the Substack post, but essentially I put a prompt in there which it gets even ChatGPT just to ask questions and not deliver advice. So it only asks questions. Some people find it incredibly frustrating because it's only asking you questions, but it was almost like a test to see if I could do it in one prompt. So developing cognitive engineering is something that I'm doing to counteract these system instructions. Another is finding out how I can fine-tune these base models. And I was very excited because just this week I found out that I can. It's a little bit of an effort, quite a lot of an effort in fact, but I can actually do it. And you know what? It's not even that expensive. I thought it was going to be really expensive out of my league, but it's not anymore. And in terms of this much bigger problem of essentially changing this whole paradigm, incorrect, mistaken paradigm, well, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that alone, but certainly what I can do is build knowledge creation systems. In other words, intelligent systems, dynamic systems that help you and I learn, which may well even help with user adoption. Because one of the problems with the non-scalability of coaching, because coaching really is about knowledge creation, the non-scalability of coaching is that you have a session or a workshop with a coach, and then you've got this long period of time in between where you're back into the way that human beings have done things for a long time, which is thinking about things in terms of information retrieval. So there needs to be more of a habit built up. If you had an always-on AI coach that understood this knowledge creation paradigm and only helped you do that, you would start to think like that. That is how you would start to move through the world. That is how you would create this agency. And I can tell you, it's addictive and it is incredibly valuable. It really is. once you start understanding that you have the resources that you need, or you can get them, and you don't have to wait to be told what to do, it changes everything. But because, I mean, I'm lucky. I got training as a coach, and that's why I've built this skill up, because that's all it is. But with an AI coach and with an intelligent system, this is something that anybody can do. All I need to do is build those systems. So the final step is obviously to take action. Now, in this use case, in my coaching use case, which, as I said, is the first thing I'm doing. It's not the final one. I started with enhancing my coaching. So transcribing coaching sessions, cleaning them up, doing various different things, structuring them, and then giving prompts to clients and workshop participants so that they could then put those transcripts into, for example, a project file in ChatGPT, and there were prompts as well, and then they could have a conversation with an AI with using those transcripts and prompts. So this is what I've been doing. The next phase is AI enabled, which is essentially actually me creating AI coaching experiences that people can have between sessions. And this is what I'm working on right now. This is like the next stage. And this, early versions of this are going to be ready very, very soon. Then another step is actually AI powered, which is attaching, once I've got these going, where I'm actually coaching and then giving the client or the workshop participant an AI coach, which with all of the stuff loaded up, and then I've done that back and forth. Then what I can do is be a bit more hands off and add these coaching experiences. I don't want to call them AI coaches because I think there's something about that makes me feel, ugh. But give these AI coaching experiences with recorded courses. So that's even more hands off. Remember, in this situation, I'm still the coach, the human coach, speaking to the clients week to week. But in this one, it's more hands off. So you could have a recorded course of me, with me on a video, talking through something, showing you how to make an album or whatever it might be. But then you'll have this Mike Monday as well, which you can ask questions in between. So that's the next step. And I'm not there quite yet, but I'm definitely here. So as you can see, the steps, just to review, instead of creating full certainty, you imagine the future that you are fearing, and then you think, well, how do I create the situation which is the opposite of that? So how do you create the situation which is the opposite of that? Well, now you've got to take a few steps. Step one, imagine a positive future. If that happened, imagine the positives. That opens your mind up to being more creative and allows you to think about, actually, this could be a good future. How do I make that happen? Then you come to the present and go, right, what are the problems I have now? What are the problems I'm facing now to actually make that happen? You go through the problems and then you actually identify the ones which are first to solve. So you ignore the ones where there's no point in solving them yet because you have to solve the others first. Yeah, if you don't solve the others first, there are going to be some which aren't even important. So you only focus on them. Then you come up with solutions for those problems that you've identified. Once you've come up with those solutions, you choose the solutions and you decide what you're going to do, which is exactly what I've been doing on the Monday stack. So I think you can apply this to your situation, to your imagined obsolescence. Hopefully that will give you some steps that you can take. And again, I'm not telling you exactly what to do for every situation because guess what? That would be me giving you a fish rather than teaching you to fish. Or what I prefer to say is teaching you how the sea works and the weather patterns work and how to build boats and where to get the wood, right? Because that is empowerment. That is coaching. That isn't taking your agency away. And that's one of the things that I'm very, very big on with AI. People are worried, I think, because they perceive that it's going to take their agency away. I see AI as potentially, if we make the right choices, a way of increasing our agency, increasing our humanity, increasing our ability to do what makes us fulfilled, happy, and valuable to everybody else. So if you want more of this kind of stuff, then make sure you follow me on Substack. There's an audio podcast where I'm just talking to a phone as I get ideas. I haven't done any this week, but I will do some over the weekend. So, and obviously there'll be videos on there as well. I put the lives when I'm going to do them on there too. And occasionally when I feel like doing a bit of writing, I might do a bit of writing too. I know Substack's meant to be for writing, but I just like it as a platform because everyone just seems very pleasant and tends not to argue too much. Or when they argue, it's kind arguing. So, and if you are interested in the AI enabled coaching that I've been talking about, I've got another Genius Evolution workshop happening. It's 5 weeks, 5 sessions, me coaching you in a group in the actual sessions, and then essentially giving you an AI coaching experience in between, which is informed by the sessions. A small group, maximum 8, and it's really focused on starting or growing your business or career, whether you're doing music or not. Okay, so it doesn't have to be about music. It doesn't have to be about even creating a business. It could be about developing your career in this highly uncertain time. So if you're interested in that, email me at mike@makemusicyourlife.com. If you're not, no worries at all. I will see you here next week for another installment, another episode of the Monday Stack Live. So until then, it's been wonderful. I'll see you very soon. And as ever, onwards and upwards. Cheers, folks.